Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the Tuesday, May 27th meeting of the St. Bernard Community Improvement Corporation. If we could please have a roll call by the secretary.
Jonathan Stuchel.
Present.
Tom Ralston's absent. Bob Culbertson's absent. Chris Schulmeyer's here. Joe Brickler. Here. Peggy Brickwig.
Here.
Ray Culbertson.
Here.
Jeff Edwards.
Here.
Allie Palmer.
Here.
Chris Sauer.
Here.
Amy Osmali.
Here.
Meredith Hughes.
Here.
Taylor, just in time.
Here.
And then Tim is not on here. Okay. It's all right.
Okay, do we have a treasurer's report?
Yeah. The balance in the Fifth Third account is $174,558.24. There's been no change at the First Financial State Bank account. That concludes this report.
Okay. Going into the action items, as far as, just to let you know, I did just receive a final invoice from Kathleen from Urban Fast Forward. So we do have an outstanding balance of $4,125. And based on looking at her billable hours, I really don't think that she really tallied all of them. So I think we actually, to be honest with you, have a pretty big bargain based on what she charged us. So she did a whole lot more behind the scenes than what we were charged. So, and as far as at this point, you know, again, as we progress into the next item with the demolition, I mean, people will see that, you know, ACE is still there and we'll work around it and kind of go from there. So as far as going into item number 2, Chris and myself have been working with O'Rourke, and but today one of the things I needed to bring up, we did get a call, and this was expressed to me by Tim Williams, but apparently where they're working right this moment, you know, on the old First State Bank building, they basically had stated that they felt that there was another building that potentially had been demolished, so they were pulling out debris that they did not feel like was from that building. And where that track hoe is actually situated right this moment is literally sitting on the entrance to the old skyline. And Chris, since your family has great familiarity with the building, if there's way more as far as a concrete structure inside of that area where they were working and they had demolished and removing the foundation. So when you went into Skyline, you went into their retail area, their seating area, walked back into the kitchen to the left, and it had a sloped down area, then it came back across, and you had an area that literally with a ramp going down towards Crosley. So there was a very layered approach, and there was a lot more concrete there than what I think anyone may have realized. And personally, I don't believe that anything, I went over and what I looked at, and I'm no engineer, but you know, where it's sitting is literally in that layered maze that existed in that lower structure. And I don't, whether or not that wasn't thoroughly inspected before the bid was given to us, but for them to say that it's going to take another $10,000 or $12,000 to get that out of there because they're finding, you know, debris that didn't belong to that building, I'm not buying it. So,
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Next steps could be, if you'd like, I'll follow up with them tomorrow, and I'll probably let them look at it today and see what they're seeing. Ask for some pictures and some justification that it is not from our structure, which they have an opportunity to review prior to bidding.
Right.
And give them a chance to either justify that it is, or, you know, tell me what we feel it's not.
and what I'm describing all makes sense. I mean, I hope that,
It makes
you know,
sense to me.
yeah, because and again, the most dense part of the building is right where that track hoe is sitting, and there was more concrete in that particular area than probably anywhere else, just based on that inner maze that connected Skyline and Crosley's.
Right. Okay.
So anyhow, make a long story short, we're basically moving right along with that demolition. They're ready to move on to the next phase very shortly. So you can, I mean, they made a great deal of progress. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, kind of moving on to the appraisal, and maybe Meredith can highlight us a little bit on that, where we are on that, and what the the ultimate goal is, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Sure. The appraisal is for the tax reevaluation appeal. So we are asking essentially at this point in the year for a refund of our 2024 taxes because the building value for that tax year was overstated. So the auditor has it at 2.1. We don't think it's worth that. But in order to prove to the auditor and the treasurer that it is not worth $2.1 million, we have to pay an appraiser to come in and appraise the property. So he is set to come May 29th, this Thursday, this afternoon. Or, I'm sorry, this Thursday in the afternoon.
Meredith, I think I had talked to him and actually asked him to maybe be there tomorrow,
Oh, okay.
7:30 tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw your email. I didn't see a response,
Well,
so.
I didn't realize that he only responded to me, so I didn't realize that. I let you guys know, but, yeah, so that'll get him in and out clear of when O'Rourke wants to restart anyway, so we should be in good shape.
So Meredith, and I know I asked this previously, but just to help me with my short-term memory, the question being is, I understand fully what the goal is of this appraisal and the reason for this reevaluation, but again, who reevaluates the property once there's no longer a defined improved value based on the lack of a structure? Does that just automatically happen once our demo is complete?
I don't know about automatically, but once we are through this stage of the process, so once this appeal is final, whether we win it or we don't, and once the demo is complete, I will reach out to the county and figure out what we need to do for them to update their records and show no improvement on the property.
But would we potentially need to re-engage someone again or not?
No, we should not need to. This is a contest of overall evaluation. It's not a matter of fact. So once the demo happens, it should be fairly straightforward. Go to the county and say, we're being taxed on a building that doesn't exist anymore. Update the tax records. Now, there may be a more formal process for that, but it's not an appraisal question. It's just hopefully an administrative process. If I find out information to the contrary of that, I will let the board know, but that's my understanding right now.
Great, thank you. Next item, we do have a property maintenance issue at 31 Phillips. So if this makes sense, basically that empty property that we have on the hillside that we inherited, it's heavily overgrown on the top end, and the adjoining property owner on Baker, who has, a nice concrete patio with a pool and all of our overgrown brush is basically impeding the enjoyment of that property. So we do need to have that dealt with. I have, there's a potential that the village may end up, that the CIC may be able to reimburse the village with having the service department do some of the work, working on that. And I also have a private contractor that's gonna be giving us a bid, our current company that we're utilizing for mowing. I checked with a couple other companies and they are so overbooked that it's gonna take a period of time. But at this point, I guess whether or not we approve a particular amount, allowable to have this brush, cut and cleared and removed, I need to do something because it does look extremely unkept, and we probably, the CIC itself could have its own issues with code enforcement. So I need to have it dealt with.
I mean, it's difficult to approve an amount without an estimate, but I would say that, short of $3,000, $4,000, it's gonna be cheaper to get it cleaned up as opposed to any possible damages a pool or a patio suffer.
I agree. So at this point, I'm gonna ask for a motion, basically, with a advised amount to be able to spend on the cleanup of this particular property. So whether we, you wanna say $3,000, I don't think it's gonna cost that much, but whether or not we, put a $3,000 cap on it at this point.
Jonathan, I'll make a motion to approve authorization to spend not more than $3,000 to maintain the property at 31 Phillips. I made the motion, seconded by Joe Brickler. Up-down vote, I assume, on this?
Yes.
Jonathan Stuchel?
Yes.
Tom Rolson's absent, Bob Culbertson's absent, Chris Schulmeyer votes yes, Joe Brickler?
Yes.
Peggy Brickwig?
Yes.
Ray Culbertson?
Yes.
Jeff Edwards?
Yes.
Ali Palmer? Chris Sauer?
Yes.
Amy Osmali?
Yes.
All right, all yeses.
As far as, before we go into the fifth item, which is sale of property, which I'm going to ask here shortly to ask for a motion to go into executive session. But before we go into allow for the open discussion, additional agenda items, one thing I wanted to try to get an update on, and I felt that Taylor would probably be the best one to explain this, but we just came out of a meeting where we're going through hopefully a kind of a mini planning grant for kind of a master plan for the Vine Street corridor for the village, which there are quite a few CIC properties that will be incorporated in this, and it's kind of exciting actually to see for future developmental opportunities. But Taylor, would you be willing to give just a brief overview of kind of what we're getting ready to do?
Sure. So we actually just interviewed with two different firms that are both highly qualified, but take very different approaches. No formal decision has been made yet on which firm we'll go with, but although the approaches are different, the outcome is very much the same. It's really looking at the Heritage Hill District and thinking about how that fits into the village as a whole, but also what happens to each of the properties within that district. They're going to be looking at things such as parking and land use and zoning code, and making sure that we are set up for success in the village. As we start to see more private development and interest coming into the village, we want to make sure that we are kind of putting the guardrails in place to get what we want. Because at a certain point, when there's private properties being redeveloped, if it's not in the zoning code, it's not law, and we can't do anything about it. So this really stands as an exciting opportunity to kind of cast a vision for the Heritage Hill District and make sure that we are, bringing that vision up to speed. I don't know if all of you are aware, but our last plan was from 1998. So that's a little bit older than it should be. And so this is really exciting. I think that there's going to be lots of opportunity, regardless of which firm is selected, for engagement across the broader community with the CIC, with residents, with businesses, and any stakeholders that would frequent the business district. So,
Thank you. As far as any other open discussion or additional agenda items from the board itself, does anyone have anything? I don't know if anyone happened to notice that our great VP is actually taking a tour out west on Route 66. And it's not in an Oldsmobile. But if anyone wants to fill in for him with any potential questions that. Okay.
Got one quick one. Mr. President, I know we were going to give the property on Greenlee to the CIC. Do we need to talk about that?
That's a good point. That missed the agenda. So, yes, so the house on Greenlee that was actually with the devastating fire, the village actually went through the process of putting a lien on the property. The village then also purchased the assignment from a previous lien that was for delinquent taxes. So those actual liens were consolidated. We stuck with the same representation and went through the full foreclosure process, which went then to sheriff's sale, went through 2 rounds, the minimum bidding process being roughly $65,000 plus, so nobody bid on it. So with that being said, we brought it to council to make a decision as to what would be done. So again, it is now fully in ownership of the village. Council had made the decision that rather than just putting it out to bid, to turn that over to the CIC to allow for it to be put through one of our processes. So, you know, whether the CIC at this point votes to accept that, but point being, it's now in process of being transferred to the CIC with no contingencies. Basically, the CIC would not owe the village anything upon sale or upfront, but upon basically taking ownership of the property would still be responsible for any tax liabilities, but we would be able to put it through, you know, our normal vetting process. So, just so everyone is aware. You know, again, I will have further information from you once the transfer is complete, but at this point, I mean, I hope it's not too late that everyone's all right with that, but, I mean, it's yours now. Does that work, Jeff?
That works.
All right, thanks. As far as before we go, I guess the audience, does the audience have anything they'd like to ask under open discussion, additional agenda items? Okay. So at this point, I am going to ask for a motion to go into executive session for the discussion of sale of property.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion by Amy O'Smalley, seconded by Peggy Brickwig. Jonathan Stuchel,
Yes.
Tom Wilson's absent, Bob Probst is absent, Chris Schulmeyer votes yes, Joe Brickler, Peggy Brickwig, Ray Culbertson,
Yes.
Jeff Edwards.
Yes.
Ally Palmer.
Yes.
Chris Sauer.
Yes.
Amy O'Smalley.
Yes.
All yeses.
Okay, hopefully it won't be too long, and then we'll be finished. Thank you.
it's us two too close together. Amy Usmali made a motion to come out of executive session, seconded by Jeff Edwards. Jonathan Stuchel,
Yes.
Tom Robson's absent, Bob Culver's absent, Chris Schulmeyer, yes, Joe Brickler, Peggy Brickwig, Ray Culbertson, Jeff Edwards.
Yes.
Alec Balmer, Chris Sauer,
Yes.
Amy Usmali.
Yes.
We are out of executive session.
At this point, just a reminder, our next meeting is scheduled for June 24th. At this point, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Joe Brickler, seconded by Ray Culbertson and others. All those in favor? Aye.